That had to be a record.
Kenny
Yes.
said he's never seen one go that long ever. They started at 3:30 and finished about 8 o'clock
Yeah,
or close to 8.
close to 8. Wow.
But trying to emulate it.
Is there a nap time built in there somewhere?
City council meeting I missed, and it was a short one. I know, because I checked the date and I go, so I just. She goes, oh, no, it was a short meeting.
It was.
I'm like, the one meeting that I have to miss. And instead I traded for a 4-hour meeting. Dang the luck.
Not tonight.
Yeah.
I think we'll move through this, pretty well. We'll see. I did hear from Tim. He is not going to be in attendance. They're having an assembly at the high school for all the sports. And so he was not going to miss that. Don't blame him. I think that's a good priority.
They
Mhm.
routinely ignore the mountain bike team. 'cause
Do they?
They.
We're not.
How did the mountain bike team do?
They added 3 trophies to the trophy case this season. They got 2nd in state
Good for them.
and 3rd in district. And yeah, they did super well.
And they were not included in the
It's,
celebration?
the high school has, yes, it's complicated. It's
Okay.
not really a chess sport.
Hmm.
It's a high
Ah,
school sport.
I see. I would think they wouldn't care to differentiate, but that's just my opinion.
Yeah.
Somebody cares.
Not to downplay a cross country team.
That's good.
They have a really good deep team.
It's quite amazing what our kids have accomplished overall throughout the school district. The soccer team did really well. The volleyball team, I never did hear the volleyball team went to state. What happened?
I don't know.
Maybe they didn't go yet. I don't know. Anyway, it's both girls and boys track team, mountain bike team, our cross country ski teams. Everything's gone well.
Those rocking.
What's that?
We're rocking.
Yeah. Okay, it is 6:02 and we will call this city council special budget session of November 9th, 2021 to order. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Lorenzen,
Here.
Mayor Lobby,
Here.
Councilmember Gowan,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Green,
Here.
Councilmember for Genesee,
Present.
Councilmember Carr,
Here.
Councilmember Gill is absent.
All right. Do we have anything we want to add to the agenda?
We do.
What would you like to add?
Well, in our presentations, we have, I think, the Lake County, is this what we're calling the organizational requests, the ARP fund
Yeah,
allocation?
that'll be a very short conversation, but yes, that's what we're talking about.
What does ARP stand for? I just
American Rescue Plan.
got, oh, okay. I saw one that kind of,
We should stop using acronyms. I mean, I'm really bad about that, but I try and spell things out.
no, that's fine. I
Yeah,
did see
yeah.
that there was one in particular that requested that. I didn't see it in all of them. Maybe I
Gotcha.
missed that. Okay, thank you very much.
All right. And I know as kind of side notes to some of the presentations we'll have for the street department and fire department, I will have some additional things, but I'll make those part of that overall presentation rather than agenda changes. Okay. I don't know that we have to formally approve this agenda, so we won't, but I think we've agreed on the agenda. At this time, any housekeeping matters, anything anybody would like to talk about before we get rolling?
Any notable updates on the city administrator?
process?
No, we have a meeting on Friday of the selection committee, which is Donna, Tracy, and Christy Dune. We're meeting on Friday. At that time, we have 9 applicants. I think I've already reported out.
Yep.
Some of them look good. I mean, I just, in my cursory review of them. And on Friday, then we're going to talk about timelines. You know, we have a series of questions that Donna helped put together with 3 different sets of questions, putting them together. We're going to talk about what is important to us in this job. What are we focusing on? And then we'll need to develop a rubric around that once we've decided that. And then based on that conversation, okay, what are our timelines? When are we going to make a decision about who on this list of 9 would we like to invite for an interview and how? And then in what time frame? So as long as we can get someone hired before the end of November, I'm going to be just fine. Just a little joke. But I do hope we can hire someone by the first of the year. A lot's going to depend on what DOLA's timeline is. I'm hoping to clarify that.
Can we use
Okay,
our
absolutely.
own existing funds to pay that person until the DOLA funds?
The answer is I've asked that question. Tracy had a good idea.
Yeah.
We had another good idea. Someone said, well, can you put him under contract until, or Tracy said, can you hire him in another job description and then promote him when the time comes? I suspect that either of those things are okay, but Christy avoided the question because she seemed to think that the timeline is much tighter than I thought it was. That's what I'm gonna find out Friday.
Okay, cool.
But yeah, I think that option's on the table if we need it.
And to your question, though, I guess Councilmember, I do feel that, yes, I know we want to get a city administrator position in there, but we want to make sure that like we take the time not to rush through the process. And whatever that means, if it's not at the first of the year, I know that's your projected pie in the sky.
It's
best-
just a
best
projection.
possible, time frame, but like, I really feel that we need to kind of think about it, maybe even give it a second look, maybe think about who maybe are the top 3 candidates and rank them and the pros and cons of those 3 candidates, and then maybe take a second look at that as well, just because this is going to be a big change for the city and we want to make sure that we have the right fit. And I'm certain there's a lot of good candidates on
If
that.
we pick the wrong person for whatever reason, that's a disaster for us. Certainly is for me. I can
Yeah.
say that, pretty bluntly.
Yeah.
That would be really, really hard to take on a failed attempt. So, yeah, thank you. Any other housekeeping matters?
Just in terms of the EDC, that their entire leadership is moving on at the end of the year. More
Well,
except
only
for
one,
John
one
Wells.
person, yeah.
John Wells is stepping down.
Oh,
as is
okay.
Bob, somebody. else,
Geister,
yeah. So I don't know that I'm not entirely sure if that affects our commitment to the increase in funding. But I would like us to at least pay some attention, because I know some of the salary ranges they were tossing around to get a new executive director seemed a little exorbitant, and I don't know. I just was sort of like,
Yeah, no, your point's well taken. I met with county commissioners today. We had an EDC budget work session with the county today. The county didn't seem to be very distressed by Marla leaving. I would tell you I am, and I'll tell you why. I feel a sense of failure, not me personally, just in general about EDC. This is the 3rd EDC director now in about 7 years. And 2 of them have left. Nicole was here for about 4 or 5 years, and she left to go back to Virginia, where her family was. And Marla's doing the exact same thing. So there's something wrong with our base paradigm here on bringing people in that don't stick. Well, I'll give credit where credit is due. Nicole here was quite a while. Mike Bordoni was only in that position for a couple of years, and he left for a high and paid position. But I will tell you, every one of them, all 3 of them, also left and this was unspoken, because every year the funding of the EDC was uncertain. And while I feel like that's the responsible way for us to deal with the EDC, if it's going to be this private corporation, which it is, even though it's a nonprofit, and they have to come to us each year and basically convince us that what they've done, and that it is our community's best interest to continue it. I don't have any problem with that. But if you're a highly paid professional, it's a different sense of how they feel about their ability to maintain that job at that level. So I'm not defending the fact that that's one of the reasons they left, but I'm saying it is something to think about.
I would say that the EDC director is probably one of the highest paid positions in government, quasi-government in Leadville, in Lake County. I think that's
True.
the cost of that. I mean, and we do need somebody with those types of skills. However, I think we do a pretty darn good job supporting them, both county and city.
I would agree with you.
I think that's-
However, I want to lay that on the table because I've been watching this for a long time.
Did any of those folks mention that as a reason for leaving?
Mike did,
Mike did.
yeah. And I don't remember, Nicole might have been part of it, but
Yeah.
for Nicole and Marla, they were both drawn back to where they were from and their families. And much higher paid positions, incidentally, but that, nonetheless, I don't want to belabor it, but I want to respect what you're saying, because I agree that right now we're kind of a crucial point in deciding what is the future of the EDC going to be, and then what is our contribution to that, whether it's the city, the county is 140,000, 145,000, and we're at 37.5, something like that. Anyway, I am paying attention to it. I do have an opinion. After that meeting today, I came back and sent a note to the county commissioners expressing just the things I've told you, that something here doesn't feel right in terms of our approach.
I think that we expect a lot out of them. With the level of their skill sets, that job brings a lot of money to this town. And I don't see anyone locally in this town that could approach it even close to doing the things and having the contacts and making these relationships. And once again, I almost look at it as burnout again. Once again, I mean, just based on what I've observed, there's a lot going on between EDC, tourism panel, chamber, Main Street, a lot of moving parts there.
Mhm.
And it's a lot to have somebody work on bringing, different businesses here, and establishing these relationships, and also helping to foster relationships between individuals that are pooling together to, maybe come up with something that individually they wouldn't do, but together they're able to do something fairly significant by number of jobs or funding or anything else. I just think it seems to me that once again, it's just like we push and we push, and that because there is a lot to do. And I just feel like, we're just burning people out right and left.
I would think this particular issue is not a burnout issue. It's a year in. I would say people who exist at that level know how to manage, their workload. They certainly should. If they don't, well, that's a whole different problem.
It's not necessarily the workload.
You think
They
it's the pressure?
they have personal lives too, which speaks then to the family issue. But I mean, it's difficult, I think, and that's one thing that I really have seen a lot of, is just some of our really good leaders, whether it be at Tabor, whether it be at the city, we're burning people out right and left. So how can, it's like, so how can we do this different? Why do we keep doing the same thing and then you expect a different result? Doesn't work that way.
Well, I'll
So-
certainly keep you posted on my conversations with the county commissioners. I do expect us to somehow, I'm not sure what it is, take a different approach this time.
Yeah, I agree.
Something about bringing people in nationally to Leadville. We've seen it so many times. Great people come here. They're really good people. They're really enthusiastic. A couple years later, they're gone. We've seen it plenty of times to know that is a factor.
We had Hunt, the lady who has the EDC in Glenwood Springs, because she's.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
I do have a different items not on the agenda, housekeeping matters. if I
Please.
Will, and this is just switching it up completely, is I run the alleys. I'll either walk the alleys, and the alleyway between pretty much 8th, just this half alley between Harrison and Poplar, behind the Zeitz Park and all the way through, and even over near Malanzana. I don't know if it's trash or how that alley right away is maintained, but I am seeing a lot more refuse out there. And I know there's some specific to Zeitz Park that I've seen, lots of bags of leaves that just probably gone up, but I've also seen some piles of pruned trees that have been sitting out there for quite some time
I
between
think
that.
those
and
were picked
Full
up
Circle.
today, right? Okay.
Okay. Thank you. And also, but like, I'm just wondering, it almost seems like the alleys are getting encroached on or something like that in some places.
Everywhere in the city.
I don't know if there's anything we can do about it. It's just something that I just noticed going, it's getting tighter in there or something, or there's more. I don't know what to say, but it's just something I've identified. So that's all I wanted to raise.
Interesting. Okay.
Thanks for picking that
Thank
up,
you.
Tom.
You're welcome. Okay. Anybody else?
I noticed a bunch of streetlights out on the west side of Harrison tonight from like 6 to 30.
Yeah, so we've been talking with Pro Electric.
Okay.
Lights are tripping our breakers. So they've been out actually working, trying to get them breakers to see why they're tripping the breakers.
We gotta find, it's a short somewhere.
But it's been, a couple
You know
weeks
about
now,
it,
so I do know about it.
Okay.
Pro Electric's in on it as well, so we're trying to get it fixed.
Yeah, thank you.
The light is out front as well. We should go
Okay.
out the
Steve, you have a comment?
annex or the north X.
Okay, we'll take comments on items not on the agenda. Come up, talk to us.
Hi, my name is Steve Prestash. It's quarter of with the second thing Dick in there, so I got 3 minutes. I guess I have 3 points. One point is I don't think 3 minutes is long enough to talk. It used, when I first came to town, it used to be 5 minutes. There's certainly not a flood of people here talking. That took 15 seconds. The other point is I was here 2 meetings ago that I attended, and I made a report about, at the end of the city council meeting, about, I heard that someone had gotten their hands broken because they didn't pay their drug dealers. And then I saw that person's son, which was supposed to be the recipient of this activity, about 10 days after I came to city council with this issue, and he didn't have any bandages on his hand or anything. So I still am puzzled on why I was gulled into believing such a story. Okay, so that took a minute. Okay, my other point is the reason I come to these meetings is I'm terrified of losing my home. And one of the members here at this meeting, I mean, I never met the person before, apparently knew all about me, and I had a really hard time with that person our first 2 contacts. I mean, I was insulted near my house, and I went to a yard sale, and I was also insulted there. I saw something in the Denver paper today. I guess I'm a little rambling on this last minute and a half. relating to this issue about how in page 1 of the Denver paper, the Mexican army in this one particular place is actually maintaining the peace by making sure drug dealers don't invade each other's turf. I mean, I laughed out loud when I read this at the Sinclair store there. We kind of have the same thing. We have corruption in government that's incredible. And the corruption in Leadville government has gotten to the point where it is against the law. We're breaking the law tongue in cheek because we can. Our legal system allows this because somebody has to go to court within 30 days after a decision. Then you have to get a lawyer. You have to be able to afford a lawyer. The poor people in this community are getting crushed underfoot by the wealthier people. And part of the wealthier people are the developers and the realtors. And this tax that they came up with, the 3% tax, that's wrong. We should be taxing the realtors and the people that are making these property investments. So I'll keep coming to these meetings and I'll keep this fear in my chest that I have right now. I'm speaking and I'm out of time.
Thank you, Mr. Prestash. Okay, next up, we have some presentations. The first thing on our list is this American Rescue Plan funding. I've been working with Commissioner Marcella. She and I have been communicating, but now she's put together this list, but she has not been able to schedule a meeting. So she and I and the other county commissioners need to sit down and prioritize, but I wanted to supply you with these requests also. And so if you have opinions on any of these requests, I don't think I have strong opinions on any of them. They're all requests based on the American Rescue Plan Act. And then, you know, we'll decide, because what I suggested to the county commissioners is let's make our money go further. Let's look at these in the context of sharing the cost of these requests to the degree we think that's reasonable. And so that's what we're hoping to work on. I hope I can get I left Commissioner Marcella another voicemail today, and she was in the meeting this afternoon. So I don't know what the status is, but really this hinges on and she and the other county commissioners being able to sit down, go through this, and make some decisions around this funding. It's not a budgetary issue because the money's just sitting there. As you probably know, we received $360,000. We're going to receive another $360,000 next year under this American Rescue Plan Act. And I hope we can use it appropriately for our community.
I was just a little confused because like there on this double-sided sheet, there are two different amounts requested by some of the same groups. I just had some.
For some of them, they requested different amounts from the county and the city, and others requested the same amount. And what Commissioner Marcella and I agreed on was they were asking one amount. You know, they weren't asking it from each of us. That was their total request. And now we decide if we want to go forward with that request, and if so, if we're going to split it at the ratio, the 32.3% for the city and 67.7% for the county.
Mayor, if I may,
Yeah, please.
I guess 2 points is, I know that we're getting money per year, and a lot of these requests are for multiple years.
I've noticed that as well. Some of them are more than 2-year requests. So yeah, I don't think we can go down that road. Yeah.
Yep, and so I'm just wondering if we can request for them to maybe amend their request for either, you know, for the funding that we have available this year for this year's expenses, and then subsequent to the next year. That's point one. And point two, the second point is there a way that we could create a process outside of our budget meetings here? I kind of almost got confused there.
This process is not part of our budget.
I know.
I just wanted to keep you informed. That's all.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a good point, because I was wondering that as well.
I was
It's not a budgetary consideration.
I looked at the, not like, I was like, okay, when I was reviewing this, I was going, wow, the majority of this is these ARP fund allocations.
Mhm.
And if it wasn't for Chief Daly, I wouldn't have had the information for his presentation because it wasn't in there. So I was like, okay, so I guess my ask is, yes, this is very important. I know we have funding for it. We have to distribute it appropriately for our community. But can we do it outside the budget cycle? Like get some,
We are, it will not be part of the budget cycle.
I mean,
Only
outside of
reason I'm
the
bringing this to you
time.
is just information to let you know, this is what we're working on.
Okay, got it. Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Would you want comments on it now, or would you prefer to hear and know about it?
Here's what I'd like for you to do. I don't want to take up a lot of time in this budgetary session. This could take some time. If you have comments, send them to me directly. And then I have that in hand as I go to the county commissioners. And you're also helping me to think through these requests, okay?
Okay.
I would appreciate that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Cool. Thank you.
Okay, next up, we have a
I'm working on it, so,
Oh, nice. You like that?
he's not, it's not clicking. Jane's got it.
Try a little head wobble. There you go. That's good.
I can't do it either. All right, wait. Almost. Okay, we had asked for a presentation from the city street department. So Tommy, you have the floor. And he has some diagrams here for us.
The map with all the colors on it is everybody's routes. Tyler, Mikey's, Marvin's, Larry's, and myself, and Clint. So Tyler would be, is blue. He's the west side of Harrison. He's going out all the way out towards Safeways. Goes from 10th Street over to Front Street, down streets to McQuithy, back up to Harrison. Then you have Larry in the old grader. Larry's going from Harrison up to Friar Street on the east side. And from 11 to Monroe, down streets on the grader. Clint, he's purple. He's on the west side. He's gonna be running the 938 with the U-blade, the new U-blade.
938, it's a loader.
Yep, loader. But he'll be on the west side doing cross streets as well from 10th to Front, from McQuithy to Harrison. And he will be doing neck downs as well as myself. I was talking to the mayor about wanting to get another U-blade. We only got 6 guys. It'd be helpful for that U-blade to do neck downs. That cuts a lot more time, and to do cross streets or when the grader crosses.
What
the
are
line.
neck downs?
So neck downs is when the grader comes across Harrison and it leaves the big windrows.
Uh-huh.
All we do is grab that off of Harrison and put it into the storage pile. With them U-blades, they're 20-foot wide, and they're U-blades, so it's easier to grab all the snow and actually pile it. And also another thing, what's good about them U-blades is you can actually stack it instead of having, somebody on a bucket loader come up and actually stack it for you. So it's, with the U-blade, you're actually stacking it right away instead of, taking the time back out and doing it, coming back, do it once, not twice.
So they're more efficient?
Yeah, more efficient, and then with 6 guys, we're hopefully get one and get another guy, that'll cut a lot more time down. Myself, I'm on the east side with Larry, from 11 to Monroe, doing cross streets from 11 to Monroe, and from Friar down to Harrison, which I'll be doing neck downs as well with Clint. He got the west side, I got the east side. Marvin, he's and I'll be in the 930 loader, the last year's not the new loader, but the one underneath that. Marvin's, he's in the old loader, and he'll be doing alleys. I don't know if it shows up on your guys's through the alley.
Oh, I see.
You know, so Marvin's doing alleys east and west sides of Harrison, you know, so that would be east and west side to Monroe, over to 11th. And Fryer down to Harrison, Harrison down to McQuitty, and from 10th to Front Street. Mikey will be in a pickup truck with a sander. He'll be doing all the parking lots, Third Street parking, Chambers, Tabor, City Hall, search and rescue with a plow truck, pickup trucks. So, and then also Clint is gonna be doing Brookman, Circle, and College Park. There's the new development. I will be doing that, you know, either the first day or the second day after it snows. Just depending on how fast and you know, how we're able to get to it.
What Tommy and I discussed is we're gonna tell the developer, we can't promise first day because we only have 6 people. If we can get that 7th person, now that changes that. But that will be a second day consideration if there's a big snow.
So then I got another map as well. It's that outline of what, you know, of all the streets that we do sanding. So that would be, you know, all the streets that would be sanding as far as you know, all the bus routes and stuff like that. I talked to guy out of forgot his name, from the school, and he was giving me all the routes to the buses that are on Main Street, so that way for the first come first serve. And it is,
So it'll be the first street you sand,
yeah,
the bus routes.
so that way the buses don't have a hard time stopping for the kids to get on and stuff. Clear those before we start.
And is the hospital also going to be one of your first?
So, hospital, you know, I think Tyler was gonna go down 6th, come up 4th. So, you know, that would be, I know the hospital has their own contractor that was gonna be plowing. that.
Yeah, for the lots, but I meant like just access, so
Yeah,
people can get
access,
there.
so that would be the first thing, you know, the second run that Tyler does. So,
But he does that at 6 o'clock, or actually on a snow day, they start at 2 in the morning.
Yeah.
So
Well-
4th and 6th in Harrison are all drivable by 4 in the morning.
also, I'll have guys out a little sooner, you know, as well as myself. Just because we got a lot of, you know, we're short with 6 guys. So the more hours we do, the more we can get done.
I have a question for you about that.
I'm sorry, Steve, not right now. There'll be a comment period when the time comes. Okay. Would you tell us a little bit about the search for a 7th person?
So the search, I know Diane was saying that she had a thing on the newspaper saying that we were hiring. Hopefully, you know, we got somebody to come in. I've already had, you know, a couple guys fill out an application, but when they put their 2 weeks, they got offered more money, so they backed out on it. So, you know, that was an extra 2 guys that we could have had on it. So, you know, ended up, that was the last thing I've heard as far as hiring anybody. As of right now, nobody's came and applied. We're looking, you know, I got guys looking, seeing if they know anybody that wants to get their CDL. We do train with the city, with the CDL, but it's a harder, I think it's also intimidating for a CDL. Because now there's a lot more stuff that's going on with CDL as far as more testing, more sitting in the classroom, more money. So it's a lot more stuff that they threw in on CDLs.
The vacant position for the 22 wages starts at $20 an hour. Is that a non-CDL driver? Or is that just the base pay of a CDL driver at the entry level wage for an operator?
As far as that, I would say, so I was talking to Avon, they're starting their guys at $20 an hour. And I think a lot of it is going down at Avon or Summit and stuff. I think at $20 an hour with the non-CDL is pretty good. And then, if they do get their CDL or when they do, then, jump it up.
Yeah, so if somebody came on with a CDL, the starting wage would be 22
Okay.
instead of 20, but 20 is the training pay.
You should steal somebody from Steve Cooper. Their starting salary is at 15. That's
For cat and plow operation?
no, just for starting salary, wherever I'm just saying.
Yeah.
I don't know what their cat operators do,
That's for doped out lifties.
which
Say
would
that out
not
loud.
do very well here.
Any other questions for Tommy?
When you hire somebody, is it in the employee manual, or do they have so long to get their CDL, or they could, or is it a requirement to get it, period?
It is a requirement, because when we're hauling snow, the only thing, they wouldn't be able to drive our trucks because they don't got CDL. I know there's a timeline on your driver's license that you have to get it. But, the first month is what we would prefer as of the start date, is to get it.
But we don't have any place where it says that. So somebody really could hire on and just not get their CDL
Well,
or.
it's possible, but quite frankly, even at $20 an hour, we'd be glad to have them in one of the F-250 pickup trucks pushing snow. I mean, that's not ideal,
Okay,
but
it's not a deal.
that wouldn't
I-
necessarily, right this second, that probably wouldn't hurt our feelings either. Just to have a seventh person would have its own value. But if that person can then go on and get their CDL and we can get them more money, that's the ideal situation.
Mhm.
I know we talked a little bit about this back when we were discussing sharing some services with the county, but does the city help fund the CDL training?
Absolutely. Yeah, we will do that. We'll help train them. We'll pay for their test. We're doing the same thing in the police department, sending people to academy for crying out loud. We're having to do whatever we need to do to get people. Steve, you had a question?
Yeah, two things. One is the curb thing. I noticed that the curbs are getting beat up. You see chunks of concrete in certain places. And I understand we're on a learning curve thing, but I mean, I pick these chunks up and I put them in the trash for you guys to haul off. But the other thing is, along with that learning curve thing, about 20 some odd years ago, and I'm thinking about general public, one of the, somebody running a front end loader for the city was going down Plum Street, and they tagged the back of my car, and you can see plainly where then they backed up. They must have been not going fast, they must be going slow. Then they backed up and then took off again. And I called the police officer and I tried to get this investigated, and they promised they'd do something. And then I got stonewalled. Nobody wanted to do anything about it. And I didn't take pictures about it. So my issue here is for other people is if an operator damages someone's vehicle, and they know it, because this guy obviously knew it, you can see where he backed up and went back on his way. You have a reporting protocol, and two, if someone complains about damage from the street department, I think the street department does a great job. But if someone would complain about damage from the street department, are we gonna have like a ready response to that, or is that person get stonewalled like I did?
With that, we started painting our snow plows yellow, so, you know, if any of my operators hit some, that paint will come off, and, you know, that the police department would be called, you know, I'd call my guys to figure out, you know, if there was paint there. As far as that, you know, you'd be able to tell if a front end loader would hit. You know, I've never ran into that situation, so I can't really tell you until it happens. You know, hopefully it never happens from my guys.
Okay, I'm not trying to be argumentative, you're saying that if there's no paint there, then there's no damage. And even though it could have hit that and not left the paint smear.
Well, you know, a lot of it, you know, if my guys would hit some, I'm sure they would say something, you know, I'd tell them to be honest.
Okay, so that's part of your training then, okay, good. That's
So,
fine, I know.
and they're pretty good, you know, like I'll even admit to myself, you know, that I messed up. Guys understand, you know, I told them as well. You know, nobody, it's just a learning curve. So,
Thank you, Tommy. Max, go ahead.
Tommy, without the seventh individual, it's a two-part question. First of all, is your personnel amicable to overtime in the wintertime? Is that something that is it something that some days when there's a big heavy snow day that it's expected? Or how does that work?
So, you know, we usually stay until, you know, all the snow's gone, so there'll be overtime. You know, if it snows on a weekend, you know, we would be coming out at 2 o'clock in the morning on a Saturday or a Sunday. So there would be or overtime coming out.
And the only reason why I ask is that last year, it seems that you only utilized about $7,300 in overtime. It was budgeted at 10,000, and it's not over yet because we have the Sunday left. That said, is there a need to bump that overtime up to $15,000, or is that just incidental?
You never know, and everyone is different, and I, you know, I mean, don't get me wrong, it's a good question, except that if we, you know, budgeted against worst case scenarios in every budgetary item, the budget would be, wouldn't do us much good. I would say this, there are two competing things there. Yes, the guys work until the work's done, up to a certain point. By DOT regulations, they have to stop at a certain point, and so that's 14 hours. At 14 hours, they have to stop. Okay, and then there's what's called a 6-day rule, where they can only work X number of hours in 6 days, and that averages out to less than 12 hours a day. So that's mostly for truck drivers, but it applies to all CDL drivers in the United States. So
Understood.
we do have to pay attention to those rules. In fact, we put that in our snow brochure, which incidentally I was going to work on Monday. And for some reason, publisher has disappeared off my computer. And so I was working with Dan Rabinowitz today, and I have to buy another publisher. That's what I've used for years to do these newsletters, and all of a sudden it's gone.
A yearly and annual fee from Microsoft for all their.
Is that right? Anyway,
suites, yeah.
just so you know, I wanted to have that for this meeting, kind of a new template. It doesn't take me very long. I'm not reinventing the wheel, but didn't even have publishers to get it done.
And I would like to make a comment too, that, you know, the overtime that may be incurred because of not having that extra person could be a wash from the salary we have
Yeah,
in that. So it's kind of,
we certainly have seen it in the fire department, certainly in the police department, all those things. That same concept is that it does kind of come out in the wash, we hope, but it has so far. Tommy, I do have some questions for you. They're leading questions, but I'm going to ask them anyway. In one day, whatever it is, 10, 12 hours, does all this get done in one day?
You're looking about maybe 8 to 10 hours, maybe 8. You know, we got new equipment. Our guys are learning their new equipment. So the first couple times is going to be a learning, you know, for them. So it might take a little longer.
Plus you've changed routes up.
Yeah, and then I change routes up. But, you know, every single day I have the guys drive their routes. So that way they get used to their routes. So when it does snow, they at least know
Good.
where to go or what street to do. So,
Tommy and I did drive the rail yards, because now that they have so much paved, we'll start clearing those roads. Now, don't want to get into the details, but it's basically off of Hemlock, the full circle, and then those arteries to 13th, 15th Street. That's what we'll be clearing this way. Because now there are people living in a lot of those homes. Unbelievable, but it's true. But that's why I'm going to tell the developer, we cannot promise him first day service on those routes unless we have a 7. So that's what we're doing.
a lot of it too, you have maybe, there's some roads out there that are measured, you have 20-foot roads. With the U blade, you have 20 foot, and one has to clear that. So. Would be helpful.
Any other questions for Tommy? I would comment, we have a good veteran crew right now. I feel very fortunate. I've got my fingers crossed. We've also made some pretty bold moves to keep them and make sure that we hold this team together. Because that's everything.
Thanks for all this info, Tommy. Well, how much does a U-blade cost?
So the one we were looking at was $41,507.
And is that in this?
It is in the budget. I believe it's in the budget of 40,000, but you can look. It's in there under street department.
It is 40.
In fact, I'd like to segue into that. The U-blade's in the budget. So is the snow blower. I'm gonna ask city council's permission on this, but I want to present it to you first. The company that we're working with that has this Zog snow blower, it's the one we've been looking at. It's actually quite a bit cheaper, and I'll get into the details why, than I had originally anticipated. I was thinking that they were going to be about $240,000. They are if you buy the motorized versions. But what the guy said is, he says, you don't want that motorized version. You want the hydraulic version. It's $103,000.
103.
$103,000. Here's the deal. They're going to bring it up here in the next couple of weeks and hook it up, help us hook it up to our loader, to the 938.
We're also getting with the county. They're gonna bring up the one that's motorized and the one that's just runs off hydraulics, so we could put them on both same units.
Okay.
And still run both.
Right, see what they're like. Nonetheless, here's the problem. This demo unit they're going to bring to us, if we like it and if we're willing to buy it, they'll sell it to us now. The catch is, if we order a snow blower, it's a year out to get delivery. These things are made in Switzerland. And I think I've told you the story. We went to Silverthorne. That guy just swears by it. He says that's the unit. It's a ribbon style blower. It's not an auger style blower, and it doesn't jam. And it has a clutch system. So if you hit something, it doesn't shear off the shear pins like the auger style does. So don't want to get into too much detail. I've spent a lot of time really looking into this. And to me, the snow blower is the answer to a lot of the questions we have about getting streets cleared, not just pushing snow. So what I'm going to propose to city council is that we make that purchase out of capital this year and not have it in the 2022 budget.
Because it is, like, I don't see the U-blade in here, but I do see the one payment.
Isn't the
for the
U-blade in
snow
there?
blower.
Yeah, the U-blade's in a different spot.
Oh. So would that, if we took that out of capital, would that drop this
Yes.
item 6209
Yes,
by?
$103,000. That's correct. And as part of the budgetary conversation, I'll discuss, and if you look at this budget, we had a zero-sum budget. And then when 2A passed, we had to account for a third of the housing director's cost, salary, and benefits. And so we've approximated that at $35,000. That's the $35,000 budget deficit you're seeing in here right now. Now, we can sharpen our pencils, and Don and I have been over various places where pencil sharpening could be appropriate. But if it takes all the pressure off, if we buy that Zog snow blower, which we've wanted, for a couple of years, make the bold move to go ahead and get it, buy it out of capital, and then it would not be in the 2022 budget.
And that Zog snow blower, just to be clear, it pretty much can just blow snow right into the back of a truck. That truck just goes away. Or how does it
We're
work?
throwing it into your front yard. In fact, you're not going to get out your front door.
Okay, that's great.
Just joking.
That's great.
Yes, the answer is, there's a downside to this. Yes, it has a chute
Yeah.
that will shoot it right into a dump truck.
Yeah.
They say it'll fill a dump truck in about 2 minutes. I mean, you're going, really? I mean, it just does it so fast. Well, we only have enough people to run about 4 dump trucks if we're running that snow blower. So we would almost have to work with the county, see if they could get us 2 or 3 dump trucks, because we did the same thing for them last year over West Park. We were supplying people to help them clear up West Park with their snow blower, but their snow blower kept breaking down. I don't know how many times it broke down, but it was
like 7.
it doesn't matter. It was not very reliable, but nonetheless, we want to work with the county this winter, and I've talked to Michael. They're perfectly okay with that because they like our help. And we certainly helped them along this fall with the paving,
Yep.
even though it was terrible paving. But nonetheless, so our relationship with them is very good. And that's how we'll make the snow blower work. We're going to probably need about 7, maybe 8 dump trucks constantly moving to keep that snow blower moving. And it may have to wait, So the snow blower is a great tool, but it has that downside that it's faster than we're going to be getting snow and loaded at a snow dump.
Well, Mayor, if I may.
Yeah.
I just want to say that I can't believe that a municipality in central Colorado does not have a snow blower. I mean, I know Lake County does. You know how important I feel providing this type of service to our citizens in the wintertime. If it's not this year that we have a heavy snow load, there will be years in the future that this thing is gonna really make a big difference. Not only for our citizens, like just to egress access to your own house, but then when you think about like getting to the hospital and making sure that we have access to our fire department for response and that kind of stuff. And so I personally strongly support the idea of the Zog. However, I want to hear what other city council members think about that.
It seems like we're going into a winter where our city is bigger, right? We've got the rail yard, we've grown, but we don't have the amount of employees in the street department you'd like, right? So we might have more work with fewer people. Would the snow blower be a good step in making it more, allowing you to clear snow more efficiently?
I would say yes. Just, filling up 2 trucks or a truck in 2 minutes, that's times 8. Getting a lot of snow out, so.
Yeah. And with that, and because that seems important to me, that if our city's growing, but our street department hasn't, we can supplement some technology to help offset that. And my other question is, and this is my first winter in council, so I'll have a learning curve, but there's plowing that just moves the snow out of the way, right? And then there's clearing, which moves the snow off the street where to some storage sites.
That would be, we plow the first day, second day would be removal.
Okay. And so would the snow blower mostly help with the removal or both?
So it would help with all the removal.
Okay.
A lot of it would be, say, we windroll it to the middle of the street, and you have trucks drive down, which, it would be helpful for sure.
Well, I would tell you this, in the city, we can't really use it for snow moving because it throws snow. The county can use it out in the county because they can throw snow all day long on county roads, but we can't do that. So, yeah.
And the removal,
Except on Max's block.
the removal of the snow seems important to me for visibility, safety, especially of shorter folks like kids. So that to me, that makes me favor getting the snow blower, and if we're gonna get one now. Let's use it this year
It's
instead of waiting. another year.
it's get it now or wait a year. I mean, those are our options right now, unfortunately.
Well, too, also, with Jim running that U-blade a lot last year, I've learned the ways he did it. And the higher he would stack it, the more space he would have out there. So, it was, then, you get a snow blower, blow that pile inside of the truck.
Mhm.
So it makes it, a lot easier.
Mhm.
So if we bought it now, it would be the demo unit.
Yes, it would be.
Yeah.
It would be brand new.
It is a brand new unit. I'm sorry. I didn't make that clear. They're bringing us a new unit that is going to be the demo. If we don't buy it, they're going to continue to use it as a demo, but if we do buy it, it'll just stay with us.
Tommy, where are you gonna store it? I have to ask. I look out and I'm like, ooh, we're running out of room.
So that was another thing that I've been trying to do. I've talked to SRE out of Avon. I had a couple guys come up. There he said, I gotta get with Tyler a little bit more, see what he wants to do, make up a plan, present it to city council as far as adding on to the building. Or see as far as, would it be cheaper just to knock both buildings down, build one new one? But, I've had a couple engineers come up, and that's another question that they've asked me is, by the time you spend, you might be spending more than what a new one's worth. So been trying to get with Tyler on it. We would start in our upper yard. As far as, during the summers, usually, or inside, it's really hard with small shops.
Mhm. Yeah, so that's why I was curious. We're gonna buy a new piece of equipment. Are you gonna store it inside?
It would be, all our new equipment will be inside. All our older equipment are usually outside.
Feel surrounded.
Yeah, we've been talking about expansion. We don't have pricing, don't have anything to really bring to you in terms of that as a possibility, so. This is just a, kind of down and dirty, some things that we're talking about. We have in the budget, we had the sandbox we're buying out of this year's budget because it was already in there, and we made that purchase today, right? So we have that sandbox, the car lift, the truck lift, we're gonna wait until next year. And it's really hard to look at our shop and see that there's room for those big truck lifts. So that might be a future state if we can, expand the shop. The U-blade we have up there, shop expansion is just an open item. It's a discussion item. Street sweeper, we won't take delivery on that until probably April. Yeah, everything's taking a lot longer. As an example, I've got 2023 for that Mack truck. I talked to the guy today. If we give them a letter of intent now, they can't deliver that until probably December of 2022. I mean, everything's taking forever to get equipment. You have to be way ahead of the curve. So that's where we are. Oh, the Plymouth event, which, Dana had.
Roof exhaust thing on here?
Yeah, that's the Plymouth event. We can't use a Plymouth event in there because a Plymouth event attaches to one vehicle. Okay, in the case of the fire department. What we're going to do, we have fans on each end of that, exhaust fans on each end of the building. What we'd like to do is put an exhaust fan in the ceiling and then reverse those fans so that the flow goes out through the ceiling in that shop. That's our intent. We're getting pricing on that now. Tomorrow. And that will move the exhaust out quickly. That's the intent.
And that would just be for the east shop.
That is correct. Yeah, we don't have a lot of vehicles running in the other
west
shop.
one, yeah.
The shop's not very big. Actually, it's pretty big, but once you put a truck in there, it's not very big at all. But we don't run vehicles in there. So.
Mayor,
Yes, sir.
another point, and just stating my position again, I understand that, we talked about this with department wages overall, and I concur that we need to make our wages competitive. So let me just state that straight up. But once again, I will say, I hope that next year we can maybe look at not extending them from like 10% and maybe think about that cost of living adjustment, because I think we're getting close. Not saying it's perfect, but across the board, which I support, is an increase of wages. But I just, once again, don't think that this increase is sustainable at this rate that we've seen for the last 2 years. And I know that you haven't.
Yeah.
That's something that you're trying to get, but I just.
I'm
wanna state
I'm
my-
hoping to reach stasis.
Yes, and
Next
with
year.
cost of living adjustment.
Yeah,
But like, I just think that we're getting
Yeah.
close. We're nearing that point.
I agree with you. It's getting to a point where it makes me a little nervous. But I think we're also getting to the point where we're paying a really good wage in this community.
Yes,
And I'm very happy with that across the board.
absolutely.
I would like, we've talked about the Zog snow blower. I'd like to know if city council agrees that that should be a 2021 purchase at this point in time.
Would it be a top priority for you, Tom?
Well, it would be, as far as snow removal. That's what we were looking at first, and then, got with my guys and we were talking about a U-blade. Just, it would make it a lot easier for us.
We're putting a lot of equipment in place, so that's a good thing. I would say, as an example, right now, if we're removing snow the way we've done it, and that's with a loader loading a dump truck and loading the dump truck and loading the dump truck. And you've seen them out there, and they do it all winter long. I'll talk about another possible issue in a second. Anyway, if we block off 2, maybe 3 blocks in a day is all that can be cleared with the equipment that we have. With the snow blower, I think we can at least double that. Now, we're gonna have to put up more signage, because right now we sign a couple blocks at a time, no parking, snow, and showing the next day, because we try and do it noon the day before, and then we come out the next morning and are removing snow from that street. Now, we might do 6, 8 blocks in a day, as long as we have enough dump trucks to keep that revolving cycle. Now, here's a catch that probably not going to occur to anybody until it's too late. And that is, each year, we have really one good snow dump right now, and that's Apache Tailings off of Monroe. We filled that thing last year by April. In fact, it might have been even before April, and we were getting very nervous because if it kept snowing, we were running out of places to put snow. We could also put snow up at the top of 11th Street, where we have some property up there. Plus, the guy that owns that property next to ours lets us put snow in there, but that's not nearly as big as Apache Tailings. Apache Tailings is huge, and we fill it each year. So we're just going to fill it faster, I guess, is the point I'm trying to make. So that's something the street department and I are going to have to give some thoughts to. We did lose the dump at the sanitation district, because now they have plans to put in dump stations. Really cool plans out there, but we've lost that snow dump. So it's one of those things that it's not an expenditure item, but it's important to our ability to clear snow.
Is the sweeper first year of 5-year lease that street
Yes.
sweeper?
Yeah, our old street sweeper we've been cobbling it together for quite some years. I mean, literally manufacturing pieces and parts in the shop to hold it together. What year model is that old Johnston?
So 2003.
Is it? And one of the problems we've had is they moved their entire operation to Canada, which sounds great, except we can't get parts.
Yeah.
So that's been a different problem. We've had a demonstration of this new sweeper, pretty incredible piece of equipment. So,
We'll be able to keep that inside.
yes.
I saw it sitting out in front on the street, yeah.
Right, that
You
was
know,
the
when they were,
demo.
yeah, when they
Yeah.
were demoing it. Yeah.
No, that thing's gonna have to be inside. It is, those things,
Yeah.
of all the equipment that we have, that is the single most complicated piece of equipment you can imagine. It has tubes and vacuum and brushes and lights and sprayers, and it just is incredibly complicated.
I don't know if I've heard like thumbs up from everybody on the Zog, or thumbs down. I haven't heard from Tracy or Dana.
Tracy says yes.
Well, good. Can I say something about that also?
Yes, please.
I think it's really important if we're going to start talking about paving streets, that the faster we get the snow off the roads, the better, because that freeze thaw cycle is really damaging to the roads. And this is something that we hear about all the time, is that we don't do a good job of getting our snow off our streets. And this is going to benefit everybody. It's a safety issue when we have big piles of snow on the corners, you can't see the side streets. And I think it's going to benefit our roads to get that we're getting the snow off our roads. So
Yeah.
I'm in favor of it.
I agree with you. I'd like to make an important point. You've heard this from me before. Our street department does not pile snow in corners. Just so you know, I know there's plenty of snow piled on corners. We don't put it there.
And I have talked to a couple contractors as well, be on the good sides. They said, if they see, if they're doing that, we'll talk about it. And we'll get it solved this winter.
Thank you. But thank you, Tracy. Dana?
Yeah, you didn't really sound that enthusiastic about it. Did I misread you? Do you think it'd be a good thing, or were you just like
No,
leaning towards the U-blade more because that's where the discussion went first?
It would be helpful, like the mayor was saying, we could clear a lot more streets, as far as snow removal. The grader comes up, puts it in the middle without even using loaders. Even U-blades pile it up and the snowblower will put it inside the truck. So,
I mean, I think it sounds fantastic.
it's helping us out a lot because we're short.
I have to tell you, you're absolutely right. I have to tell you, this street department, I love these guys. They work really hard, but they're pretty old school. So taking on a new idea is not always their favorite thing. So they have embraced this, even if tepidly sometimes, but this is what we need to do to do the job right. So I laugh because I've been around it a lot.
I think Tracy's point was an excellent one.
All right.
I'm in favor of it.
Jane?
Yes, I would support it as well. I
Thank
think
you.
Tracy had good points and yeah, I think we should go ahead and do it.
Max?
I'm in favor. I do have one question. I'm thinking about the rail yards, is that just that sidewalk that kind of circuitously winds along Poplar between 9th and Safeway or wherever they stop. Is that in our jurisdiction to clear now, that sidewalk?
Probably not now, but I think it will be in the future. Right now, it's not used. There's no building going on that frontage. I think there will come a time, but that's gonna take probably a pickup truck with a plow. Because it's an 8-foot wide sidewalk, so a pickup truck will be able to run down that thing. Actually, I don't know. I was driving along and they'd done that sidewalk. And I looked at that thing and I said, that's not 8 feet. So I got out and measured it. It's 8 feet, so, but it was kind of it was a perception issue, nonetheless. The answer is yes, we're probably going to have to take on clearing of that sidewalk sometime in the future, although I don't know exactly when.
Okay.
Tyler does do the west side all the way down to Safeways.
God, he's good at that. You talk about a skill level. I mean, I watch what he does and he has the wing out and he just doing that sidewalk and he has to do the dips. And he does that sidewalk all the way from Safeway, all the way to downtown. Yeah, that's it's hard to appreciate that kind of skill. He's really good. Okay, thank you very much. Any other questions about the street department budget? Steve, do you have a question or comment?
There was a couple things I noticed. The auger thing, gravel doesn't affect that as much, or you're thinking about the one that's not an auger, so it's some kind of a rigid thing. Does gravel affect that or not?
No, it got clutches in there. So what happens is the clutches stop, if say 2x4, it actually doesn't break anything. The clutches just stop.
But what if it's gravel? Is gravel that go right through?
Gravel, it'll pull gravel, but usually, if there's gravel or we know about it, we try not to pull gravel out.
Okay, so there's one place where there's gravel, there's another place where it looks like someone's yard's gonna blow out on that sidewalk, and then there's another place. So right in front of the dollar store on the north end, that sidewalk, on the north end of that sidewalk that faces the popular, it's heavily gravelled right now. Must have got thrown snow up there and melted or whatever, but there's all, because I walked through there when I come to Safeway. So the good section of that has lots of gravel in it. And then up the street there at the corner of 9th and Poplar, that place, the corner place is fenced in, and they have about that much dirt that is below the fence, that's above the sidewalk, and there's one place where it actually started to blow out. And I think there's gonna be quite a bit of that's gonna blow out there, so that means it should be looked at. And then the lady up the street, when they did the sidewalk, her foundation is like hanging on top of it in one or two places, and eventually that's gonna fall out, it looks like. Then the third thing is on 3rd Street, it's either off of Harrison, it's either the first or second intersection down, I'm not sure. It looks like the macadam is so thin there that it's like cobbled up there and dirt's starting to come through. So I will hope you look at that.
Yeah, we've seen a lot of it, as far as it's already late into the winter now, or going to winter. There's not much that I can do about it right now, as far as.
Can't patch that.
Yeah, as far as, well, I'm getting a patch actually next week.
Cold patch?
Cold patch.
All right, thank you. I'd like to, is one of these line items, we have this street maintenance item for $200,000. We spent 76,000 on the, maybe 79,000 on the sidewalks. Although he's never billed us the last 10%, so we're waiting for that to happen. Nonetheless, that still leaves us a little over $500,000 in the street. I have asked Christiana to look into a certificate of participation, which we've talked about. I don't have any answers on that at this point. I'll just tell you flat out, I will ask for your support of that if it's possible. And then we would have, let's say, 4.5 million just for starters, and we could put more money into that game if we wanted to. But I would be thrilled if we could get even the first 100 blocks off of Harrison Avenue paved all the way down, just as a starting thought. Tommy?
So, talking with Cody from Parkville.
Yeah.
I don't know how sanitation feels as far as looking at a 5-year plan is if, do they gotta do their water line or their sewer lines? We don't want to pave and then, have to
Right.
have them tear it up.
I think that's an excellent point. We need to ask them for a plan and then pave around there. If they're gonna do a sewer line 2 years now, they've got a 4-year plan in place, right?
Mhm. Well, once they get all the information from Snowbridge, who did all the line televising,
Gotcha.
then they can kind of prioritize and go from there.
I do have to tell you guys, for the Leadville sanitation, They've been advised, that they have to, by CDPHE, I believe,
It's requirement, yeah.
that they have to replace, if not all their lines, the majority of them in the next 4
Problem
years.
lines, not all of them.
Okay, all the problem lines.
Yeah,
Oh,
those
that's
that are showing where,
Gotcha.
yeah, we're having issues with, INI inflow and infiltration, so.
Okay. To that point, and to your point, we would like to know before we ever, start paving anything, what that 4-year plan is. If you have a line, on 6th Street that you're gonna do 4 years from now, then we're gonna wait on that street.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very good point.
And the other thing with sanitation, a lot of the lines are in the alley typically.
Mhm.
However, say for instance, on East Sixth between Hemlock and then West, that's in the pavement
Yeah.
on East Sixth. It doesn't go down the alley.
Okay.
But
very good.
most of the sewer lines, or the majority of them, go down. in
Just
the
so you know,
alleys.
we've on E6, we've been talking to Parkville Water because we think they have leaking lines all the way
Oh,
up to
yeah.
the top. And if you drive up there and you really look at it, you see the pavement failing all the way up 6th Street, all the way to the top. And let's see, they're reluctant to admit that they have a line that's failing all the way up 6th Street. But what we've talked to them about is, okay, let's make the decision. Let's do 6, the entirety of E6. Let's do it together, and split the cost of whatever we need to do, because you're gonna have to, sooner or later, you're gonna have to suck it up and get this thing done, or that street is going to fail. There's a Volkswagen is going to disappear. So,
I, once that comes around, we do have to make those decisions.
Yeah. I hope we have to make those decisions.
Yep, the chicken and the egg though, there will always be emergency repairs that,
Right.
you're gonna have a perfectly beautiful road and somebody's gonna have a water line break.
Right.
And guess what? They're gonna cut through new pavement,
Mhm.
right?
Okay. Any other questions about this budget? Or we put it to bed?
Mayor, so that paving fund is something, just to be clear, that paving fund is gonna be increased, is it gonna be supported to $250,000 this year?
It's gonna be 450.
$400,000 this year?
It's gonna be over 500,000.
That's
Cumulative.
Cumulative,
Cumulative, right,
including the 2022 budget, yeah.
right,
So
yes.
we are still putting that money
We
towards.
put
it.
that, we put that money in a different account. Please.
Okay, so we're talking about doing these streets and things like that. Remember at Michael B's, the storage thing, they had the sinkhole.
Yeah,
Would it be reasonable to maybe budget a plan for someone to do some kind of sounding to see if the streets you're repairing don't have a mine shaft under it?
that's actually a pretty good idea. We might want to partner with the Bureau of Reclamation because they have a budget for that. Like that mine shaft that collapsed at Michael's, the Bureau of Reclamation went in and took care of it, but they actually have money in their budget to handle mine failures.
So if we could do that with the streets while we repair them, you're doing this with Parkville.
That's probably a great idea. I hope there aren't any mines under the streets, but who knows?
Maybe that's what's causing this.
Good idea, thank you. Yeah, no, we drive down the street, you know what we say, Parkville, 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 Parkville. That's what we do all the way down the street. Glad Greg's not here. He's heard it from me before, though. It's not a secret. Okay, thank you. At this time, we have the Leadville Lake County Fire Department budget. But Dan, before you get started, I want to go over briefly the conversations with the union and how those may affect our city council's decision-making process. So, here we go. Each year, we have a firefighter regime. And each year they have to notify me if they want to negotiate. Actually, they don't always. I think a couple years ago, they said, no, we got nothing. We work with them every year on various subjects. This year, they've asked for several things. And just to put it in context, pay increases in their union contract last year we said they could have a cost of living increase up to 3% and a merit increase up to 3%. Now, last year, all we did was a cost of living at 1.6, and we did not do a merit increase last year. Just to give you some context. They said, we'd like for you, even though we know it won't be 10%, we'd like for you to raise those limits to 10%. And part of the reasoning was, it just so happens, cost of living in this year so far is 5.9%. So 3% was really a problem for them. Now, we didn't do 5.9%, we did a total of 6% for the firefighters this year. And that's something that Dan and I negotiated and they were fine with. But they've asked that we raise this upper limit to 10% in each of those categories. And I said, I don't see any problem with that. Okay, just to let you know. The next thing is they were asking for under health insurance, they would like employees to get 100% health insurance. And I said, okay, guys, if we were to do that, we would have to do it for everybody in the city. I'm not doing that just for firefighters. In terms of health insurance, there's no real difference in terms of our base health insurance. Firefighters have some other health insurance coverages for cancer that are not part of the regular health insurance. And so Donna was nice enough to run some numbers. What did you find, Donna?
Well, with my assumption being that if we're gonna pay 100% for employee health insurance, every single employee is gonna opt in. So if that is the case, that they're gonna opt into the highest plan that we have, the best plan that we have, it's gonna be about a $200,000 increase, $200,000 increase for the city.
Or I think a total of about $507,000.
Right.
What did I miss?
Well, a total, but right now we pay like 300 and something.
Okay, all right. But so I told them right now, this is a no. Maybe we could revisit it in 2023, but I have no room in the budget for this year, especially because I can't treat them differently than the rest of the city.
I have a question about that.
Please.
So what if it was just, because it's only employees, not any kind of family.
That was all, our calculation was only on employees.
Just employees, but what if it was, if they opted into this, but had the lowest portion of the insurance cost, or the lowest insurance, and then they'd have to pay if they wanted maybe higher grade insurance at that.
It's possible, it would still be an increase. So keep in mind, we pay 75% now. We're not exactly being stingy with health insurance. And I feel like that's pretty good. And that's the same thing the county does.
But I was curious on what those numbers would be, if we could do those.
We can run those numbers for you, but they're going to be an increase either way.
We'll have a year to do it. And I think one of the main reasons why they asked, and it's kind of a retention thing also for employees. So like if all the street department had all their health insurance paid for, it's a greater incentive to get a little bit more in their paycheck because they're not paying for that medical.
Right.
It's just
but also remember to Donna's point, if we offer 100%, we're going to have a lot more people opt in than currently do opt in for whatever reason. There's a variety of reasons that might happen, but it will happen.
Absolutely.
Okay, the next thing that they asked for is they wanted their PTO to be increased by 3 hours per pay period, and also their maximum accumulated PTO to be an additional 96 hours in every category. In every category for years of service. I also said no to that. I said again, that doesn't work for me, and they had good reasons. I mean, they're saying, in the fire service, we are a little bit different in terms of our ability to take PTO, for crying out loud. A lot of times they have a hard time taking PTO, and even Dan has, and he and I in our conversations, he said, my captains, how can they take off? I don't have anybody to replace them if they take a week off. You want to talk to that, Dan?
Yeah, so our officer, our engineers, until we have greater staffing levels at the higher end, acting officers, acting engineers, in order to be able to bump up, it's always going to be an overtime cost to the city. So it's really difficult to have an officer or an engineer take time off without filling that with overtime. Now we can do it without a position pay if they can bump up, and then we can always fill the firefighter seat with the interns and the reserves and other firefighters. So it's a matter of working on credentialing people to move up in those positions. So it's really tough for officers to take that off.
So I had a real problem with that, and so basically I said, no, we can't consider that. But this is an interesting idea that we talked about with the firefighters union. And Don and I talked about it, and that is for accrued PTO hours that go over the max, that they would get paid quarterly for the amount they go over once they've topped out. And let's say it's 180 hours and they accumulate an additional 10 hours in the next quarter, whatever it is, that's probably not accurate, but that we would actually pay that out in that paycheck, the next paycheck after that quarter. But here's the catch. I would have to have a request in writing from their manager to explain to me why they weren't able to take that PTO. Now, we think there are only about 4 or 5 people in the city that would be able to take advantage of this, whose PTO tops out and they're not able to take PTO. So I actually kind of like this idea as a possibility, because if we were to do this, we have to change our personnel policy to accommodate that. That's why we need city council's discussion on this. And I don't know that I need you to make a decision tonight, because we haven't had time to break down what that would mean in terms of cost to the city.
But if PTO is, I mean, is there a requirement to take or use your PTO by the end of the year if it's so difficult to?
No, it carries over, but it maxes out.
But I mean, you say with a note of why they didn't take
Well,
their PTO.
I think it's
So
a
are there
manager's job
accessible-
to make sure his people, his or
accessible
her
reasons?
people are taking PTO. PTO is there for a reason. One of the reasons is quality of life. Employees should be taking time off. So one of the points of PTO. If they're not, that's not necessarily a good thing. And if they've topped out, that's really not a good thing. So I would want to know from the manager, including me, why aren't your people taking PTO? Why'd you let them top out? And in Dan's case, maybe there are very good reasons. But I would have to have that manager explain to me why that happened.
From the government, from my standpoint, we have what's considered use or lose. You can accrue up to 240 hours of PTO, it's annual leave, and then if you go above and beyond it in a calendar year, let's say you accrue 290 hours and you can only hold through a total of maximum of 240. You lose that ability.
Our current policy is the same.
And I guess the question for Chief, is there any programs that allow individual, now this isn't anything to do with taking time off, but I'm just wondering, is there a program that allows for an individual to donate leave to people that may need to take it for, like, let's say, a medical issue, or is there a way to pay it to another municipality?
We do that now.
We do that if somebody's at their end of their PTO and been on an injury. We allow for others to basically bank the other person.
We've done that. We've done that in City Hall. We've done it with the street department.
Yeah.
When people are really hurting, their comrades can come to their aid with PTO.
Yeah, I think that's a wonderful thing.
Yeah.
It really is.
And-
And I'll talk to them. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
I don't know, keep going.
Okay.
I hear what you're saying.
Well, like to Jane's point earlier about burnout and that kind of thing, it's really it's a hard balance. When, again, my officers and my engineers, we have so much going on within our organization, it's just really tough for them to take time off. And I try to encourage it. We actually talked about it in our last officer meeting, because of everything that we put on ourselves this year, like building out the training facility for the fire academy. Oh my God, it's atrocious for the kind of strain that put on the organization to try to get that built out. And those are kind of some of the reasons why a lot of people haven't taken PTO, but in my last officers meeting, I was like, we can't do this anymore. You guys have to find the time to take off for that quality of life, because you're worthless to me if you're burnt out. So we're working on it. We're trying to figure out the solutions to do it. And again, it's tough for my officers, and sometimes my senior engineers to take that time, because there's nobody to backfill or bump up. And again, so my officer takes off right after 3 officers, so another officer's coming in, so now he's working 72s, 96s and all that, so now that person starts to get burned out because the other person's taking time off. It's like I said, it's a balance. We're trying to figure it out. And we've been trying to figure it out for years.
Yeah, I mean, just in general, I think firefighters are workaholics too. I mean,
To some degree.
you
yes.
you get to take 48 hours on, 96 off. However, a lot of them like to, just like I can say for myself, look, I have a full-time job, I'm on city council. It's the same thing as like, I think some of that burnout, I can speak for myself, is self-inflicted.
Yeah, but and we have the same thing in the medical field. You know,
Yes.
you get one person out sick for a couple of weeks and the other people have to absorb that work. And all of a sudden, everybody is so much more tired. So somebody comes back and they're like still trying to come up to speed. And everybody else just wants to jump ship because they've been working super long hours. It's a really hard balance.
I've been very clear with the firefighters union about, where we are in this negotiation. But I would like to tell them, we're going to take a look at this in terms of the financial impact of what that might mean. And then we'll make a decision, before the end of the year for them.
And just to let you know, I mean, as the chief of the department, it'd be hard pressed for me to try to have somebody get paid out for this PTO before I tell them to go get some harm.
That's the point. Precisely the point. Because I would expect managers to feel some pressure over having to write me a hall pass for their
Accountability.
person's PTO. I don't want to see it, because I think we should be taking PTO, but I do understand there's circumstances where it's unavoidable. So
Now, in your organization, if one of your captains decides to take PTO, is there a possibility that your operations section chief, Chief Simon, can take over that role, or how does that work? I mean, you have other folks that have those capabilities, correct?
Correct, we do, but you're mixing union and hourly with somebody that's salary with less hours. We did that actually the first year with Chief Simon, because he was in a transition period, and it's too much. It's too much
Now,
for them to work those additional hours on top of it.
can some of your engineers fill in as captains? Do they have the?
So right now,
qualifications?
currently, I have one.
Okay, so ultimately you want to make sure that you probably get all your engineers up to
Correct.
acting captains, correct?
Yeah, so it's, it's the knowing the position above you and below you. So now my firefighters are working on an engineer status. We just did a driver, operator, pumper, and utility course. We got through 4 of them, went through that. So we're trying to get our firefighters up to engineer, and our engineers. We just did a task book for all of our officers. So now there's a task book
Oh,
to
great.
get them up to the officer level instead of just throwing them in there.
So you're in charge.
So,
Got it.
I would hope as well that with the training center kind of being much further along, that may free up some time, or people won't feel guilty about taking PTO as that project kind of wraps up. I mean, I know there will always be things to do, but hopefully that will help. But I would be very interested in seeing the employee cost, as you were saying, Chief, at the base rate, if the city would pay for that.
You're
And
talking
then-
about 100% healthcare.
Yes, the 100% healthcare,
We can
and
do that.
And then if they want to bump up to the medium plan or the Cadillac plan, that'd be on their dime. But, you know, that's actually, I'd be curious to see what that looks like because, and not that it's gonna happen this year, but it is something to
Yeah.
think about going
I think
forward.
that's a great idea. Then they take responsibility for
Exactly.
the delta in costs
Mhm.
for a higher, that's actually pretty interesting. We'll take a look at that, and it also might encourage people who are at a little higher rate, maybe to go to the lower level just because it would be paid 100%.
Yeah.
I don't know, there are a lot of possibilities. Thank you. That's a great idea. All right, fire department, you're on.
All right.
You've got 10 minutes.
We always do that.
Time.
10 minutes. Let's see what you can do.
Give us what you got.
Give you 10 minutes. Come on, you got it.
I don't want to take a lot of time this evening. Did everybody get an opportunity to see this?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. And also I provided a strategic plan as well. So I updated that strategic plan this year. And as you can see, as you read through there, that there has been a lot of things accomplished over the years. I've marked it done. So that's, we are moving forward with progress on what the big picture should be, 1, 3, 5 years from now. I think I even have some dates that even proceed 5 years from now to be able to just kind of get an idea and give all of my staff an idea of where the organization is going. So please make sure you read that if you have an opportunity. I think it kind of gives you an idea of where we're going as an organization. There are some things in question in there, like, do we want to become paramedics? We have paramedics currently, one in our reserve pool and also one of my engineers. We do want to be able to supplement and help the ambulance service with paramedicine because our call volume continues to increase and we keep having those multiple back-to-back calls, and sometimes the ambulance service, even with them having 2 ambulances on at the same time, there could be a 3rd and 4th call, and that 3rd and 4th call, 5th call, whatever it is, could actually use a paramedic. And if we have medicine on our engine and the training, then we'll be able to take care of our communities.
How long is paramedic training?
It's 2, well, you can do a fast course for a year, in a year. It takes a year. And most of the
And when would
time.
they do that? Would they actually have to go remotely to do
On
that?
their PTO.
Well, I was gonna say, if you think you have a problem with PTO now, well, you put three different people through paramedic school.
Yeah, and there's dates up to like 26 or something in there. So
Okay, just, I mean,
it's a future goal of the organization, but we did, just as an example, Rob Midas was with us. We took him offline and filled all of the positions with reserves and residents during the safer time. And we took him offline and then he went and got his paramedic. We weren't able to keep him, unfortunately. He is still one of our reserves. In fact, he's shifting next week, but he works for our ambulance service. And they paid for, it was a half cost between both agencies. That's how we did that. And we might be able to do that in the future too, share some of those costs. So anyways, there's that. Operational request, if you don't have any questions for me right off the top, I'll go ahead and get into just the operational portions of the budget.
please.
Okay. There's only actually a couple of items in here, and it'll be on page 15. It's the same.
Engineer.
Version 1.3. So as we all know, we're gonna put 72,865 into the budget for the Type 3 engine. We did increase the vehicle costs by 10,000, although the average has been roughly around 40. I'm trying to figure out that whole problem that we have with not having a local EVT. A lot of the maintenance has been done by our County Road and Bridge office, but we still have to send stuff to Keystone and down to Denver when it's an EVT worthy which is emergency vehicle technician, like pumps, and, you know, when you're getting in the guts of the actual apparatus, it's a specialty that somebody has to have. We were on the right track on that for a while, but then that went away, unfortunately. We added 30,000 for legal services. I don't think that we're going to be able, I don't think that we'll use that amount. I think that's probably still.
You and I may need to talk. We may reduce that, but right now we stuck it in there. Even if we reduce it, we transfer some over to the other, so it wouldn't reduce the budget. So let's say we reduce yours to 20, we'd make the other one 100,000 because our legal expenses are they're high. You know, they just are. And we need to account for them.
And I used some of the legal in 20, as you knew, or actually this year in 21, to get the intergovernmental agreement done with the ambulance and a couple of other items.
That was about $30,000, right?
What's that?
That was about $30,000, right?
I don't know.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't want to know.
This is something. This is something I'm actually really excited for. This is the first time that I've seen it in almost the 18 years I've been here. Is that we're actually going to set 100,000 aside for capital improvements. So that's a wonderful move in the right direction, I think, because as you all know, all pieces of equipment are expensive, but for whatever reason, fire department pieces of equipment are astronomically expensive. And I'm really glad that we're going to start putting a savings account away, if you will. And then we can also fund on top of that, fire fund balance, and then that
Right.
has such a hit.
So I will tell you, we did this for a couple of reasons. Number one, this was actually Commissioner Fever's idea.
It was.
So we were on board. The three of us all agreed that this is a great idea. We're going to move this into the fire fund balance. But because it's in this budget, we split it 70-30. In the fire fund balance, we don't split 70-30. So this is a city and county contribution that will move into the fire fund balance, which we think in a good year, we could exceed $200,000, which with the extra $100,000 might be, we're working on $300,000 towards replacement of equipment. We already know we bought a Type 3 engine this year. We're talking about maybe needing to invest in a Type 1 engine the following year, or maybe a Quint the following year, and then maybe a Type 1 in about 3 or 4 years. That was it, by 2026 for the Type 1. And the Quint is as you can imagine, it's a multi-purpose vehicle, but it has a ladder. And one of the biggest problems we have right now is our ladder truck is past its end of life and it's costing us a small fortune to maintain. They actually had to manufacture the parts to fix the turret on the ladder truck. And what was the cost on that?
That one, I haven't received a bill on that one.
Okay, just
But
don't let me see it.
Yeah. I don't think you're wrong.
But so the point we're trying to make is we think the next purchase is a Quint, which will then work partially as a Type 1 fire engine for response, and then kind of like a Type 3, but not quite. And then it has a 75-foot ladder. Now our current ladder is 105 feet.
Right, and you can get 100, you can get 105, 107.
Oh, can you really?
I can. I
Oh.
just cleared that up when I was.
Okay.
in Keystone. Pierce is the one that builds it though. On a single axle.
My favorite company.
Yes.
Oh, man.
And
The
just-
inside
just
joke
to-
is our Type 1 we got from Pierce like 5 years ago.
Oh, dog.
Piece of
Yeah.
junk, total dog.
Oh, big time. It's a limit. So, and just to give you an idea of where we're at on apparatus, because this is part of the decision-making on all of this. Right now, our Type 1 Pierce is down in these new tie rods. They're waiting on, because we fell in a hole back here site-wise, that they covered up the street and the engine fell in. Yeah.
What?
Yeah, right here, right behind the fire station, we were pulling up, you know, they have those big steel metal grates
Mhm.
across. We drove over it and our front right tire went in. So there was damage to the engine. We're gonna bill them out, obviously, for all this. I've already talked to the supervisor and everything. And Donna's helping with that. Thank you very much. So we have a tie rod out on the type 1 right now. It's 1 to 5 weeks out. That piece of equipment is in Denver, sitting for the next 1 to 5 weeks. Because, and then we're on engine 2, which is a 2002 Sutphen, and that thing it was arcing the other day, just to let you know, underneath. And it has an air issue right now to where we have to chuck it every time we have to go out the road. And it's literally probably a few hundred hours away from just being out of service. The one that we got for $1 from Summit County, that one you have to put up to 2,500 to 3,000 RPMs in order to be able to put it in pump gear. So that's what we get for $1. Our truck, the pump surges. So when you're on the end of the hand line, the pump surges up to a certain PSI that will knock the firefighter on their rear end when it's flowing water. That and right now the outriggers on the truck won't even come out. So there's a hydraulic issue. So the truck's sitting over there, it's paperweight. We're in dire straits of being able to take care of our community. Now the type 3 will help out a little bit, but when the type 1's out, we're kind of sitting in not so good of a position for our community when it pertains to those other pieces of equipment. It is old, they have a lot of problems, and they're expensive, I understand, but we really need to kind of think about some replacement on these pieces of equipment in the next few years.
Just to give you some idea, the Quint's about a $700,000 piece of equipment.
Actually, it's 1.1.
I beg your pardon?
Yeah.
It's about the small plane.
I have it written down as 700,000.
Yeah.
Right, that's what I was led to
Yeah, there.
believe.
Yes.
Quint is short for
I confirmed over there.
quintuple combination pumper.
Yeah, so it's an engine with the ladder truck.
I'm gonna
So
go
what
home
that
now.
does is it replaces the truck and an engine. So it replaces 2 pieces of equipment into one. So, but, and I just got that information too, Mayor, and I hadn't had a chance to update you.
I'm gonna get you a pickup truck with a water tank in it.
I know.
So we should
I've
wait
decided.
until at least mid-December to start fires. Is that when type 1 will be back?
Right.
So this 100,000 that is going to the fire fund is savings towards capital investments like
Yes.
that.
Mhm.
And did you say that's a 30% contribution that the county would make a 70%?
County
Right,
76,
so
30.
it's-
And
That's,
so 100,000
30,000.
is the 30%?
no, 100,000 is the total. We would pay 30% of that. The county, we bill the county for their 70% each month.
So we get it back later, but okay.
So that's why it's in our budget, it's 100,000.
It'll also, if you look at the revenue side, we'll also show the total county contribution as revenue against expense.
Oh, okay.
So Cisco, if you look on page 14,
Gotcha.
at the very top there,
Mhm,
the county protection and then the city revenue,
mhm.
that's those, these
The city-
operational
the city pays
expenditures.
512,000 for the fire department, and the county pays money.
Mhm.
So this is the annual cost. So this right here, if you have an opportunity, it's under capital improvements. It's this one right here. It'll give you somewhat of a rundown on the actual apparatus, how they were purchased. Please have an opportunity to take a look at that one. And this will give you somewhat of a priority list of the actual apparatus themselves. Color code them for the year. Up here, you'll see different colors on the year, and then they correspond with the replacement of the apparatus on the other side. So if you have an opportunity to take a look at that, that'll kind of give you the priorities that probably should happen for the fire.
So a lot of expensive things here. One that's not is that Dan is going to be able to fill the 4th seat, and that will not be a budgetary item. Because that is a complete grant pass-through for 3 years.
For 3 years.
Which grant? It's good.
It's safer again, staffing adequate fire emergency response. So instead of the recruitment and retention that we did for the first 4 years, went for the actual hiring aspect. That will be all expenses paid for 3 years for the 4 seat fire.
And you'll notice if you look at the pay sheet, that falls below the line in terms of our calculations.
And I know that's a industry standard to have the force feed filled, but it is tough for most municipalities to fill force feed in general, correct? I mean, we're not alone in being able to fill a force feed. I'm certain that Summit County has the same issue because of people taking PTO and the likes, because you can run an engine with 3. It's what they're asking for is 4, but most of the time it's 3.
No, I'll explain that. So Summit County, Eagle County, they ran third for the longest time, about 20, 25 years ago. Probably about 15. Yeah, it was about 15 years ago. So they had the internship program like what we do. They had a residency program. That's how they filled their 4th in order to be able to meet that NFPA standard. As their growth and their tax base took off, they hired their 4th. So they hired their 4th person and then they got rid of their residency program. That kind of opened doors for this side of the hill in order for us to start our resident return and internship program, because before they were being pulled to Vail, Summit. We didn't have that opportunity. Now we did it in 2006, but we had like two residents at the time. That's how many people were interested in coming to Leadville versus Summit and Vail and all those other residency programs over there. So now, with over here on this side, Salida Fire, what they did over the past 3 years, they just hired their 4th over the past. So they hired somebody each year, no grant. They did it each year. They hired their 4th on their engine company. In fact, Josh Jelsic, one of our interns, went down there. He got hired as the 4th firefighter on that engine company. And if you want to really mirror a department that's really like ours on this side, not that tax base, but this kind of tax base, it would be Salida Fire. Now, keep in mind, Salida has Chaffee, and they used to have BV also within their county. Big county, but they have Chaffee Fire, they have BV Fire, they have South Arc, they have Salida. So they have 4 departments down there, now 3. And Salida is a part of South Arc. They kind of do the IGA thing like what we do at the county.
I guess I'm asking is like, yes, it's good to run 4 people in a shift, but like if like with PTO and people taking sick leave and that, like what's the percentage of the time that you only have 3 on an engine, or that's what I'm asking. It's, like, it's probably tough to keep it always at 4 because you don't have anybody to backfill behind, right? And so like you have one person taking PTO for that, to take a long 9-day weekend or whatever, it comes out 10 days off, right? They get rid of 2 shifts, nobody's there to fill it in. They'll be running 3 people on that, right?
Yes, correct. No, so we'll still run 4 because we have the internship program.
Got it.
Yeah, so it'll actually open opportunities for more people to take PTO, because now we'll have that 4th where that 4th person can go off the engine company, and then we'll just backfill with the intern.
I would tell you this, for a long time, Dan and his operation did run 3-man fire company. And probably about 6 or 7 years ago, he started this intern program. And he did it mainly because he was absolutely determined to have a 4-man company. And I know that because I was on the fire management board long before I was mayor. And I remember there's a passion around that. And I remember just like you thinking, is it that important? Well, it doesn't matter what I thought. It mattered what he thought. and so he put together a program that gave him that 4th man, and he's had it ever since, probably for the last 7 years. So,
and now we're going to do it on the career side for 3 years without any expense. Now, the 4th year is something that we'll need to discuss on keeping those positions moving forward.
We're going to let the next mayor discuss that with you.
That will be the case.
I guess the point I'm trying, also like leading into it though, is if you have 4 people and you don't have anybody just specifically for a PTO standpoint, let's just talk about work-life balance for them. When you do have a wildland fire deployment, how then do you, like, are you putting more stress in the system? You have 3 people going off on a wildland fire deployment. Now you're left with 3 less people out. I mean, is that, how is that, how does that work into the whole thing?
So it has always been a stress up until we had the internship program starting in 2017. Before, it has been an absolute nightmare to go out and backfill our career personnel, because it's overtime. And it's that, you know, that exhaustion that they're working all the time. Now what we do is we normally try to send out 1 career member and then interns.
Got it.
Yeah. So that's the key point right there. And now we'll be able to, with the 4th person as a career member, we'll have more people to backfill instead of having the 3 to backfill where they're working all the time. We'll be able to spread out that load a little bit.
One thing this does, we hope, is increase our ability to go out on wildland.
Correct.
By having these 3 professional 4th seaters, and now still having an intern program. Now it gives us the ability to go out with 2 pieces of equipment on wildland deployment instead of 1, and still not put too much stress on the system. I mean, you know this pretty well. You're obviously very well versed in it, but that's our objective, is to grow the wildland side of this, because that's the funding for new equipment.
Right. The $1 million piece of equipment that we. So that's actually really.
700,000.
Well, it might only be 700,000 because we could supplement with firefighters.
Yeah, okay.
So that's actually a really good segue on what I really would like to talk to you about tonight, and that's under new programs, number 5. I'm just going to get off the budget just for 1 second to discuss this. And this is not a decision to be made tonight. I just wanted to be able to make sure that you're aware of this. It's something that the mayor and I have been discussing. I talked, you know, Donna we discussed with Donna the other day also. What this is, under number 5, you'll see a Blue Vista BFD Wildland Program Standard Operating Guidelines. So what this is.
Time out, Dan.
Yeah.
It's 8 o'clock. Does anyone want to take a quick break? And then we'll come back and get this presentation on new programs.
I could use a quick bathroom break.
What are you thinking, 5 minutes?
Yeah.
Okay.
Tops.
Do we have to add more time because the faucet in the men's bathroom?
Yes, no, it's good.
It's working. Yes, it's fixed.
Got my own faucet.
Yeah, that's right.
That urinal there needs to be replaced.
Make a quick phone call then. Please excuse me. Hey.
Wow, goodness. Thank you.
Yeah, I need
Take off again.
I just got that.